So we have reached the point in which we understand a little bit of how Godot works, and we have learned about autoloads. And now we have a question. Why use a main scene when you can use autoloads? Or should you even use a main scene at all? What is the difference between them? What are the advantages or disadvantages? So that is a very good question, I think, because the main scene, in a certain way, could be considered sort of an autoload, except it's not really. If you think about the main scene, of course, this is the scene that you set as your main scene. Whatever you set here is going to be highlighted as blue on your editor, and when the game loads, it's going to load into that scene. Now, autoloads, on the other hand, they are globals that you set here, and you can set it using a script, and the script will then be paired with a matching node, or you can also set a scene as an autoload, and both of them will also load when the game starts. However, autoloads are globals, and the main scene is not. That's very important because from any script, and right now we don't have any global, but if we let's put an autoload, and you can see that it will be, this is the path to the script, and the node name, because it will be paired, the script will be paired with a name, with a node, and I'm going to call it the node, so that we know that this is the node of the autoload when we see it on the scene tree when running the game. So now we have an autoload that will load as a node with the name autoload node. Okay, and it's also a global. So because it's a global, now we can go to any script, and let me see if there's, this is pretty much the only script I have, but I could now access it from the script autoload node. You can see it here. The name of the node that it will load is also the name of the autoload. Of course, because the autoload is a node that is automatically loaded. So that's the name. And we can also access its functions. For example, there you can see that there's already a list of some of the basic functions. Get tree. Let's get the get tree. So we can access any method in the autoload. In order to get to the main scene, on the other hand, you will need to run the get tree function, and then get root from tree, and then you will need to get the corresponding node. And I'm going to call it here MainScene, to make sure it matches, and get node MainScene. And that's how you get the main scene. Of course, you could now run a function from it. And you can access properties, of course, variables. This is a node 3D, so you can access, let's get its position. It doesn't appear as position because the script, unlike with autoloads, which are globals, doesn't really know yet what kind of node it is. And that's why I could start typing, and it is not auto-completing some of the members like rotation, because again, at this point the editor itself doesn't know what a main scene is. It's going to know when it get the main scene and check for the member. But for autoloads, that is going to be already accessible, and there will be part of the autocomplete. So that makes them easier to work with. Now, do we need one or the other? If we take run the main scene right now, of course, let's look at what we have here. So it's a very simple main scene. I already used this main scene. There is a collision here, an object here with a collision. So everything works. And everything right now is part of the main scene. Of course, if we look at what is running in the game, we have the main scene with everything, the accordion, the, the level, the player, and also the autoload is here as a sibling of main scene, and that's important because autoloads and main scene are going to be siblings. Now we have seen what the scene does. Let's play a little bit with this. And well, of course, something that I also want to say before I start playing with it. Since I was calling the autoload here, let me call it again. Autoload load with Q3 to show you that you don't really need autoloads. I mean, they are not necessary to run a game. You could potentially, if everything is contained within the main scene, you can run an entire game without using autoloads at all. And now if I go here, as you can see, this work. I actually was able to access the autoload and remove it from this function removes it from the tree. So it's no longer on the tree because I remove it. Of course, I can also remove it from here and there will be no more autoload. So what about, however, I said that autoloads, of course, can be scenes. And again, what happens when you make the autoload the main scene and autoload? And if you want, if there is any advantage to it, and of course, I think at this point it's a little bit obvious of what will happen. But let's see the process. So let's go to project settings and set the main scene is main here. So maybe let's call the node main scene. So now we add is going to be called main scene so that we know. And we are going to the project and we're not going to run the main scene. Now this is going to give an error because you're supposed to have something here, otherwise the editor is going to give you an error when you start. No main scene has ever been defined. 7.1. How about I cancel? If I cancel, it doesn't start anything. So for the editor to start the scene, to start the project, you need a scene. So we're going to create a new scene. Actually, let's create it here. And let's create it as an empty node. Just a normal vanilla empty node. It's just an empty node. There's not going to be anything here. Let's save the scene. And we're going to save it as empty. Empty is fine. We don't have anything else called empty, so let's save it empty. So it's nothing but an empty scene, and that scene we're going to put in here. So let's go and search for empty. There you go. Now we have an empty scene. Close. So what happens when I start? And as you can see, the game started normally, even when I started from the empty scene. And there's the collisions, there's the column, there's the collision. The rest of the game is working how it should work. So let's look at what is happening. And as you can see, the empty is there, but as we all know, it's an empty scene. And the main scene. Oh wait, I forgot. I forgot something very important. I forgot something very important, and that is to change the name because otherwise it will become confusing. This is now the Autoload scene. It's the main scene, but it's run as an autoload. So I want it to be called an autoload so that we can differentiate it easier when we're running the project. So now that I press remote, you can see the autoload scene is here and the empty is here. Now the empty, like we established, is nothing. Everything is being run off the autoload. Now if I toggle the visibility of the autoload, you can see that it disappears. So that is actually the autoload, the one that is running the game. I mean, all the game is running on the autoload. Or you could say the autoload is the game itself at this point. With, of course, the advantage that it's a global. And because it's a global, it's very easy to call it run multiple scripts now. So now that I have the autoload scene, I did call it autoload scene to differentiate it, but in order, now I don't want to confuse people, but in order to establish that it's the main scene, I'm going to change the name back to main scene so that now when I try to access it from the script, that this is the script of the player, I can just type main and it's right there, main scene. And let's change the name to be main scene autoload to make it more obvious. Like I say, I don't want people to get confused about what I'm doing here. I am simply calling the main scene autoload from the script. Main scene autoload. And now I have all the properties. Remember that I didn't have the properties when I was trying to get it through get tree, get root, get node. I didn't have, at least, I mean, I will have access to them, but the editor will not autocorrect the different members of it. But now that I'm accessing it as a global, I have the transform. I also have the position. I have the rotation. Well, it's right there. It's right there. So I can access all its methods easily if I make it an autoload. Now again, we have that empty. When started, we have that empty scene. Of course, because we needed a scene. So we still have that empty scene. So at this point, I think the best course of action will be to run the queue free because it's doing nothing right there. So might as well just free the resources. All its job is to get through the check that the game does at the start when it needs to load a scene. So that's the first scene it loads. Now that the job is over, well, it's fire.